In a world where filters shape reality and fame is just a swipe away, one girl dared to chase the glamorous life of an influencer, only to discover that behind every perfect post lies a price few are willing to pay. This is not just a story about social media. It's about deception wrapped in designer clothes. About silent cries behind the camera smiles. And the haunting truth hidden beneath a million likes. Tomilola was just like any other young woman from Ibadan, ambitious, bright-eyed, and filled with dreams. She believed that success meant beauty, followers, and fame. She believed she could escape her small world with a phone and a vision board. But she didn't know that in the world of influencers, not everything is what it seems. Because behind every brand deal, there's a contract no one talks about. Behind every viral reel, a choice that cannot be undone. And behind every glow-up, a darkness that never makes it to the explore page. What happens when the dream turns into a trap? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling, realistic story of Tomilola. A story of ambition, exploitation, and the silent cost of wanting to be seen. If only she knew what it takes to be an influencer. You'll never look at Instagram the same way again. In the dusty streets of Ibadan, where the scent of fried plantains mingled with the roar of Okadas, 19-year-old Tomilola Ajayi stood in front of her phone camera, lips glossed, wig straightened, and ring light blazing in her one-room apartment. She wasn't just taking selfies, she was chasing her dream. Tomilola wanted to be an influencer, not just any influencer, but the kind with millions of followers, brand deals, and front-row seats at Lagos Fashion Week. She had grown up watching them on Instagram, flawless women with sculpted bodies, adorned in designer clothes, sipping cocktails in exotic locations. To her, their lives looked perfect. They looked free. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and share. I'm dropping skincare tips that'll change your life. She chirped enthusiastically, unaware of the silent desperation in her eyes. It all began 6 months earlier when she stumbled upon a viral post from one of Nigeria's top influencers, Zara Gold. Zara had reposted a makeup tutorial by a fan, and the girl gained 10,000 followers overnight. That night, Tomilola barely slept. She saw her way out of poverty, out of her mother's endless market hustles, out of obscurity. All she needed was a phone, data, and a dream. Her first mistake. Thinking it was that simple. Tomilola started with small lifestyle vlogs and makeup tips. She mimicked the accents, the mannerisms, the confidence. But likes trickled in slowly. Comments were mostly from classmates and neighbors, encouraging but irrelevant in the algorithm. She began following growth pages, buying cheap promotions from self-proclaimed marketers who promised instant fame. Nothing worked. Then came the DM. A man named Lady slid into her inbox. He claimed to be a PR agent for social media talent and promised to help her grow her page, the right collaborations, the right events, just be open-minded, he said. At first, she ignored him. But desperation has a way of silencing instinct. Let's meet in Lekki, he texted again. I have a few friends from a major agency. They can take you far. The idea of being in Lekki, a symbol of status, where influencers lived and partied, was too enticing to resist. She lied to her mother, saying she had been invited to a friend's birthday in Lagos, and used her savings to book a bus from Ibadan. As the vehicle bounced along the highway, she imagined herself in Zara Gold's shoes, living large and adored by millions. When she arrived at the hotel Lady had sent, her heart skipped. It was a sleek, modern building with tinted glass and suited guards. The receptionist smiled at her but glanced a second too long. Room 407, Lady messaged. Come up. Alone. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. Her palms were sweaty, but she told herself it was nerves. She had come this far, hadn't she? The door to room 407 opened slowly. Tomilola, right? Lady grinned, tall, confident, smelling of money and something darker. That was the moment her dream began to turn into a nightmare. Lady ushered her in with a charm that felt rehearsed. The room was spacious, dimly lit, and smelled faintly of cologne and alcohol. A large camera stood on a tripod in the corner, pointed at a plush sofa with designer cushions. Tomilola tried to hide her nerves as she took a seat, clutching her small purse. "You're beautiful," he said, offering her a glass of champagne. "You have potential. Real potential." She forced a smile. "Thank you, sir." He laughed. "No need for sir. Call me lady." He talked for almost an hour, weaving a golden web of possibilities, collaborations with popular brands, shout-outs from top influencers, photoshoots, club appearances. All he needed, he said, was her loyalty and a willingness to play by the unspoken rules of the industry. Tomilola nodded along, trying to remain hopeful, though unease prickled her skin. Then he dropped the act. "I'll be real with you," Lady said, leaning in. "This industry isn't for the soft-hearted. You want visibility. You need connections. You want connections. You give what's asked, no questions." She blinked, unsure. "You mean?" "Don't act naive," he said, taking her hand. "You think Zara got there by just posting makeup tips? Every top influencer you admire had to play the game. This is the entry fee." Her body tensed. She pulled her hand away slowly. "I thought this was about content, marketing, real talent," she whispered. He shrugged. "It is. But talent alone won't get you anywhere, not in Nigeria. Not when you're unknown and from a place like Mokola. You want to stay struggling, or you want to rise." His words were smooth poison. That night, she left the hotel room shaken. She hadn't given in, but she hadn't exactly said no either. Lady sent her home with a new phone and 20,000 naira for transport. She stared at the money, torn between shame and gratitude. Back home, her mother praised her for being smart, for bringing something back. Tomilola just smiled weakly. The next few weeks moved fast. Her page exploded. Lady had kept his word. He tagged her on stories, arranged a photo shoot in Victoria Island, then posted her with major names in the Lagos influencer scene. Her followers climbed to 8,000, then 15,000. Brands began to notice. Lip gloss companies sent her DMs. She was finally becoming who she dreamed of on the outside. But every tag, every shoot, every follower came with a heavier cost. Lady's requests grew bolder. First, he wanted her to attend events with older men, investors, he said. She declined once. He warned her not to again. "You want to blow or not?" He texted coldly. Each event left her a little emptier. Her smile on Instagram grew wider while her eyes grew darker. She was now known as Tomilola online, her content polished and glowing. But offline, she was unraveling, silently, slowly. She didn't dare tell her mother. Not her church friends. Not even her best friend, Amaka, who thought she was lucky. Tomilola had entered a world where silence was the real price of fame. And no one tells you how loud silence can become when you're alone at night. Tomilola could no longer tell where her real self ended and Tomilola began. By day, she was shooting content in high-end lounges, dressed in borrowed designer clothes. Her captions were full of inspirational quotes about self-love and grind culture, yet each post felt like a lie. At night, she scrubbed herself raw in the bathroom, trying to erase the feeling of strange hands and hollow promises. Lady controlled her schedule now. He booked her shoots, her appearances, even what she posted. She was never paid directly. Investments, he called them. Exposure first, money later. Always later. But the turning point came on a Friday night in Lekki Phase 1. Lady had invited her to an exclusive after-party at a mansion owned by a popular Nigerian music executive. She didn't want to go, but he threatened to cut her off. Her following had just crossed 25K. Brands were starting to ask for collaborations. She couldn't afford to lose it now. Or so she thought. She arrived in a short black dress that ladies' stylist had picked tight, barely covering anything. The house was buzzing with celebrities, influencers, and men with expensive chains and empty eyes. Everything sparkled, the lights, the wine glasses, the artificial smiles. An hour in, she realized what the party really was. Girls like her were being paired with men. Some younger influencers, ones she had admired, were laughing, flirting, and vanishing into rooms upstairs. One even winked at her as she passed by, as though this was just part of the game. Lady cornered her near the pool. "Your turn," he said, nodding toward a middle-aged man sipping whiskey and scrolling through his phone. Tomilola's throat tightened. "I'm not doing this tonight. You're doing this, or you're done." That was the moment something snapped inside her. She walked away. Not just from the party, but from the entire illusion. She didn't wait to collect her things or say goodbye. She called a bolt, rode in silence back to her aunt's house in Suralia where she often crashed and cried the entire night. The next morning, she opened Instagram and saw that lady had unfollowed her. 2 hours later, the professional photos of her were gone. 3 brand pages removed her tags. DMs stopped. Emails dried up. Her follower count began to drop. Within a week, she was invisible. No one asked questions. No one checked in. She tried to rebuild with honest content, real stories, unfiltered beauty, life as it truly was. But the algorithm wasn't interested in honesty. Her posts got buried. Likes dropped to double digits. Brands moved on to the next rising face. Amaka noticed the change fast. "You're not posting like before," she said over suya and Pepsi one night. "What happened?" Tomilola hesitated. I'm tired of pretending. It's not what it looks like, Amaka. All of it's fake." "Then tell your story." "The real one," Amaka said softly. "You owe yourself that." Tomilola stared into the dark sky. Her hands trembled. For the first time, she considered it not revenge, not drama, but truth. And maybe, just maybe, that would be her real influence. The decision to speak out didn't come easily. Tomilola sat in front of her phone, barefaced, wearing a simple t-shirt, not the glammed-up Tommy glow her followers once knew. She hesitated as she stared into the lens. 1,000 fears ran through her mind. What would people say? Would they believe her? Would they mock her for falling into the trap? But something deeper pushed her. A quiet voice that had been buried under months of silence. She hit record. "Hi. I'm Tomilola Ajayi. And I need to tell you what it really takes to be an influencer in Nigeria." Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. She spoke for 10 minutes straight about Lady, the manipulation, the parties, the promises, the slow erosion of her self-worth. She spoke about the pain of pretending to be perfect while breaking inside. She didn't name names, didn't seek revenge. She told her story like a survivor, not a victim. Then she posted it. And waited. For hours, nothing. A few views. A few likes. Then, the comments started. At first, some were cruel. "Clout chaser. You were enjoying it before it went south. Why now?" But then came others. "I went through the same thing. You're brave. Thank you for speaking the truth." Her video began to circulate, not among beauty pages or fashion brands, but in support groups, forums for young girls, even blogs that highlighted the dark side of influencer culture. She was invited to speak on a small podcast run by female university students. From there, a few radio stations picked up the story. Suddenly, her voice, raw and unfiltered, began reaching people in a way Tomilola never could. She didn't regain the thousands of followers she lost. But she gained something better. Purpose. Months later, she began a new page, not as Tomilola, but simply as Tomilola Speaks. She focused on truth-telling, mentoring young women, and exposing the silent exploitation that lives behind curated feeds. Brands weren't knocking, but young girls were. Asking questions. Seeking guidance. Listening. One day, Amaka called her with excitement. Guess what? Your video is being shown at a youth conference in Abuja. They're using it to talk about digital pressure and mental health. Tomilola smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. This wasn't the path she had envisioned when she started. But maybe this was the influence she was meant to have all along. In the end, the truth didn't give her a blue tick or a brand deal. It gave her her voice back. In a world obsessed with looking perfect, Tomilola chose to be real. In a space filled with filtered lies, she spoke the unfiltered truth. Because fame built on silence is fragile. But influence built on truth, that can last a lifetime. Now that you've heard Tomilola's story, we want to hear from you. Speech Balloon: what do you think about the hidden world behind influencer culture? Thought Balloon: do you believe the pressure to be famous is worth the price some are forced to pay? Studio Microphone: have you or someone you know ever felt trapped behind a social media image? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we read every single one. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More chilling, real-life inspired African stories are coming your way. Because sometimes, the truth is more haunting than fiction.